So today we will discuss the internal structure of the tooth in detail. Like in my previous video of structure of tooth, I have given you the overview and just an overview of how the tooth actually looks like inside our teeth, right? Inside our gums. So today we will look at the detailed structure of tooth, right? So let's start with this. So basically there are three parts of tooth. There are three parts of tooth. Number one is crown, right? Number two is neck. Number three is root. Okay, now let us discuss first of all crown. You guys can see over here in this picture which I have drawn. This region which is visible to us, the region which is visible to us is known as crown. So what it is a region which is visible to us, it is known as crown. Visible to us, it is visible to us, so that region is known as crown, right? Now what is neck? The region attached with our gums, these are our gums, so that is known as neck. The region which is attached with gums and it is not visible to us, that is known as neck, right? So crown, neck, here neck is done. Now root. So the region under the bone, so this bone is known as alveolar. This bone is known as alveolar bone, right? So the region under this bone is known as root. This whole region is known as root. This whole region is known as root, right? This bone is known as alveolar bone, so the region inside underneath the bone is known as root. Now talk about the detail of these structures, right? This is also done. Now the hardest part, like let me divide it. This portion above the crown, basically this, you can say this portion, I was highlighting it, is known as enamel, right? This is the hardest part. Let's mark it number one, right? This portion is known as enamel, right? Let me write here enamel. Number one, which is enamel. So it is the, like for example, we are having here teeth. Okay, just a bit. Let me show you the diagram, right? Over here. As you can see over here in this diagram, this above region is known as enamel. Okay, let me clear you one thing, which is the above region which is visible to us. The above region which is visible to us is known as crown, right? The region which is visible to us is known as crown, right? But the region which is visible to us and the tip of that region which is visible to us, that is known as enamel. You can see this is enamel, right? This whole is crown. This whole is crown, right? This whole is crown, but still this region which is the hardest substance is known as enamel over here. You can see over here the region which is attached to these gums, right? This is known as neck, and the bone and the region inside the bone, inside the alveolar bone, is known as root, right? This is known as root. So crown, which is part which is visible to us, neck which is attached to a attached to bone, or it attached to gum, and the region inside the bone, like it is attached to bone, that is known as root, right? So now let's talk about this enamel. So enamel is the, so basically enamel is the hardest substance. It is the hardest, it is the hardest substance. Okay, now we know that in embryo stage there are some germ layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. So this enamel is ectoderm in origin. This is ectodermal in origin. This is very important. My god, what's happening? So this is very important. This is ectodermal in origin, right? This is ectodermal. The enamel is ectodermal in origin. Now, what is its composition, right? From which, like how it is made, from which component it is made? It is made from calcium phosphate, right, and fluoride. It is made up of calcium phosphate and fluoride. Okay, there is an important thing which I will tell you. Let's continue from here. Okay, it is, enamel is ectodermal in origin, right? It is hardest substance. More, it is made up of calcium phosphate and fluoride. Okay, the chemical name of calcium phosphate, the chemical name of calcium phosphate is hydroxyapatite. Okay, the chemical name of calcium phosphate is hydroxyapatite, which is very important. Mark this important. The chemical name of calcium phosphate is hydroxyapatite. Okay, and these are the calcium phosphate as crystal-like structure. Right, these are crystal-like structure. And enamel, this enamel is lined by adeno odento amylo. This is made up of amyloblast. So this this enamel is lined with amyloblasts. So what are amyloblasts? Amyloblasts are actually cells. So this enamel is lined with amyloblasts, and it is very important. Mark this, important. So what enamel is ectodermal in origin? It is the hardest substance. It is made up of calcium phosphate and fluoride, and the chemical name of calcium phosphate is hydroxyapatite, which is crystal-like in structure, and enamel is lined with amyloblast. Okay, what is if the content of fluoride increases? If the fluoride increases, what will happen? There is a disease known as dental fluorosis. Okay, now what is dental fluorosis? Okay, whenever there is a high amount of fluoride ions, high amount of fluoride, that is known as dental fluorosis. There is a disease known as dental fluorosis. What will happen in this disease? Basically, there will be decaying of teeth, there will be decaying, there will be the decolorization, there will be decolorization of teeth. Okay, there will be the decolorization of teeth. So what is dental fluorosis? Dental fluorosis is actually a medical terminology. It is a medical disease, or you can say so in which there is a high amount of fluoride, in which what happens, there is a decaying of teeth and the decolorization of teeth. So I hope this concept of enamel is clear to you. Now let's talk about another thing, which is, okay, now let's talk about the layers. Okay, now the layer of dentine is known as periodontal membrane. Okay, this layer of dentine is known as periodontal layer. So what is periodontal membrane? Let me write here. Periodontal membrane. So what is this? Actually, it is the outermost layer of dentine. It is the outermost layer of dentine, which is known as periodontal membrane. Okay. Over here you can see the layer between, okay, this is the bone, right? This is the lining of the bone. So the layer between the periodontal membrane and the bone is known as cementing layer. It is known as cementing layer. The region between the periodontal membrane and the bone is known as cementing layer. Yes, it is visible over here. You can see in this diagram, like this one. You can see over here, this is known as cementing layer or cementum, right? Now the basic, okay, there is another known this region. From this region, this is known as dentine. Basically, dentine to periodontal membrane, this is known as apex of foramen. Let me write it somewhere. This is known as apex of foramen. This is known as apex of foramen. Let me write it somewhere. Apex of foramen. So what is this? This is actually the region between periodontal membrane and dentine. Basically, that is known as apex of foramen, or you can say it is the opening. It is the opening of alveolar bone. It is the opening of alveolar bone, or you can even though say this as this is the opening of dentine on basal region. So what is apex of foramen? Apex of foramen is the region between periodontal membrane and the dentine. Basically dentine, it is known as apex of foramen. So it is present on the basal part, like it is the opening of, you can say this, it is the opening of dentine or opening of alveolar bone on the basal region, right? So let me show you over here. So you can see over here, this is dentine. Basically this is periodontal membrane. So the region between these both is known as apex of foramen. So now let's discuss the dentine. What is SI? So basically this whole region is known as, dentine. It is known as dentine, right? So now what is dentine? So basically that is dentine. So it is secreted by odontoblast. This region is secreted by odontoblast. Now what are odontoblasts? Odontoblasts actually are the cells. So this odontoblast secrete this dentine, right? And like we talked, the enamel is ectodermal in origin, right? So this is mesodermal in origin. It is mesodermal in origin and it is made up of calcium salt. Right? Now it is mesodermal. Now let's talk about, tell you where they are present actually, the cells. So as you can see over here, these cells, these are known as odontoblasts. These cells are known as odontoblasts, and the region over here and over here known as dentine. The region over here, it is known as dentine. And remember one thing, that this periodontal membrane is non-living. Right? Okay, now let's talk about pulp. So basically, so basically there are some blood vessels that are present over here, and there are some nerve fibers which are also present over here. Right? This region where the blood vessels are present is known as pulp. Let me write it from another color, right? So here we are having pulp cavity. That is known as pulp cavity. Now let's discuss what is this pulp cavity, right? So pulp cavity. So basically pulp cavity is living. Why? Because it contains blood vessels. It provides a supply of blood to it, and it contains nerves to it. So nerves are for the impulse, right? The sensation, right? And blood vessels are for the supply of blood. Which blood now? Right? For supply of oxygenated blood, right, to provide it nutrients. So what the blood vessels, the blood vessels are present in the pulp cavity which provide oxygenated blood and the nutrients to the tooth. Moreover, okay, there is a special kind of connective tissue present in the pulp cavity. That special kind of a special kind of connective tissue is known as blood, right? This is known as blood. That special kind of connective tissue is known as blood. So I hope this is pulp cavity is clear to you now. Now let's review whatever we have talked about. I hope I have covered all the things. Okay, now let me show you a diagram to make you understand more clearly, right? So this you can see over here in this picture. This is the region which is visible to his crown, while the region above that crown is known as enamel. This region is basically dentine. This is the pulp where there is a supply of nerves and blood vessels. This is gum, so that's why this is known as neck region. This is basically, it is not marked over here, but let me mark it as neck. My god, basically this is neck over here, right? Then we are having here cementum. The line between the periodontal membrane and the bone is known as cementum. Then is the blood vessels. This is the periodontal ligament. That what is periodontal? Periodontal is the, you can see, the outermost covering of the dentine, right? So I hope the concept is clear to you. You know, this is crown. The uppermost region is known as enamel. These are the gums, so this makes portion neck. Now this is the pulp cavity. Over here you can see this is the dentine. This is the cells known as the odontoblast, and this enamel is made up of cells in the amyloblast. Now this is the alveolar cavity. Okay, the teeth of upper cavity of the upper jaw, right, of the upper jaw are known as maxillary part. The upper jaw is known as maxillary part, and then the lower part is known as mandible because of the presence of the bone. This is lower jaw, right? So I hope the concept is clear to you.